Baseball in the Boroughs is brought to you by Verizon. With my plan, get exactly what you want and only pay for what you need. Let's talk some Mets baseball with the host of the Subway to Shea podcast, my guy Anthony Rivera, who joins us now. Anthony, we don't really get to talk after wins or good vibes. That has not happened for us a lot this season. Are you feeling the good vibes following this Subway Series victory for the Mets?
It's always good vibes when the Mets beat the Yankees, especially since I was there yesterday. So a lot of good vibes. The fans were great, and it's nice to see the Mets get one, in the Bronx.
Nice to see them get one in the Boogie Down Bronx. And speaking of that game, Pete Alonso, he had a big night in the Mets victory, crushed a pair of home runs, first home run since July 6th. Is the Mets first baseman showing signs of turning a corner here?
I think so. I mean, you look at July 19th, he was batting 203. Since then, he's been 9 for 19, all the way back up to batting 218. Last 7 games, batting 360, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, most of that from the game last night. And it's nice to see him get, a little bit back into form. We know the wrist was hurting him a lot. He didn't take any time off during the All-Star break, went into the home run derby. I think that kind of affected him a little bit. And he seemed to be getting into form. The wrist seems to be doing better. He seems to be jumping on pitches a lot better. And we definitely need Pete Alonso to be on his game if the Mets are going to try to make any type of push here as we get closer to the trade deadline and if they want a wild card spot for sure.
All right, Pete Alonso looking like he's on his game right now. And I want to talk to you about Francisco Alvarez because we saw him being drilled in the right hand by pitch. That was in the top of the 9th inning on Tuesday night. X-rays did come back negative, which is good news for Mets fans. And Alvarez, as you know, Anthony, he's been one of the bright spots for the Mets in a disappointing season. With injuries to Luis Guillorme, Tommy Pham, and Starling Marte, how important is Alvarez's bat to be in the lineup right now?
It's so important that even with those guys that you mentioned healthy, that Francisco Alvarez's bat is still that much important. He's tied for second in home runs on the team with 19. He's got tied for fourth with RBIs with 41. The team is ranked 5th in the National League in home runs, and a lot of that has to do with his emergence. Francisco Alvarez is so important to this team power-wise, a thing that they lacked earlier on in the season. And when he comes up and he hits a big home run, it's very important for this team. Now, I know he went 0 for 3 yesterday, or 0 for 4, and he got, hit in the hand, drilled in the hand. Buck says that is a lot of bit of a worry. Francisco says it's not to worry, but we don't know yet. They're probably going to do more imaging, especially with his middle finger being hurt. But Francisco Alvarez is very important to this offense and to what this team, just like Pete is. He is important to this Met team making an opportunity for themselves to try to get into the postseason. And if they have any chance, they're going to need Francisco Alvarez every day.
They're definitely going to need their catcher to be there for them. Now, heading into play on Wednesday, the Mets, they are 7 games out of the final NL wildcard spot. There are 5 games left to play before the trade deadline. So here's a question, Anthony. Are you a believer that this team can make a serious run at the postseason right now? I don't know if it's just being encouraged about what we saw on Tuesday night against the Yankees, but are you in believing mode with these Mets?
Yeah, I can't get into believe mode after just one game. Although it was a great game, the bullpen still made you nervous. They can't be doing that with 9-3, 10-4 leads. They're still making you nervous. And the inconsistency is what worries me. Pitching, hitting, bullpen. The Mets are going to have to take this game tonight against the Yankees, sweep this little portion of the Subway Series, and then they're going to have to sweep the Nats for me to feel any more confident in them. But they haven't done that all season long. We've seen spurts of 6-game winning streak, followed up by a 4-game losing streak. Then they win 3, then they lose 2. They have to get on some kind of momentum and pretty much win every series from here on out. I know it sounds like a lot, but if you're going to have any opportunity at the postseason, they're going to have to win series, and they have to play consistent, which I have just not seen at all. So I can't get 100% behind this team making it to the postseason if they're not showing me any consistency at all.
Yeah, haven't seen the consistency at all this season thus far with the New York Mets. Maybe the time is now for them to do it. As I said, there's 5 games left to go before the trade deadline, and we'll have a lot to talk about what the Mets can do, whether they will be buyers or sellers at this year's trade deadline. You know who's going to be on top of it? That would be Anthony Rivera, our guy, the host of the Subway to Shea podcast. Anthony, good analysis. Good to talk to you after a Mets win. We haven't done that enough this season. Thank you, man.
Absolutely. Hopefully more to come. Thank you so much, Dexter.